Hello, welcome to Barry's Economics. Today is the third episode or the third part of an interview that I did with Gary Stevenson. So I did it just before his documentary came out, and his third part is probably the most personal part as far as I'm concerned, because it actually talks about community, realistically what we can do. Personally, I've been really humbled by Gary's team's kind of efforts to include as many people as possible in the conversation. They've been incredibly generous, sharing insights and support, and really have been a big part of the engine driving this channel. I think people don't see it as much, but so much of believing that you can do a thing is having cheerleaders around you that also think that you can do that thing. And yeah, I really was inspired by this part of the conversation. And again, if you want to see the full conversation, you can on my Patreon. I'll put a link down here. But yeah, this is the third part of my conversation with Gary Stevenson. I hope you enjoy it. Thanks for watching.
It was like literally your request was the seed of the idea of, like, I'd just been writing this Edinburgh show, which is all about the last 30 years of trying to become a comedian. Yeah. I started really, really young, and I failed comprehensively for years because I didn't have a safety net, because I didn't have any way of doing it. And I saw contemporaries that could, but you just feel like, oh, why would I talk about my story? And I just literally I'd written a show around that. And then it was your seed of like,
we absolutely need, in the long run, more people doing it. We need more diversity of voice. When we get loads and loads of messages, like tons of messages of people like, we love what you're doing, how can we help? Can I come and work for you? How can we help? And it's impossible really for me to even read all these messages, never even reply to these messages. So what I want to do is tell you, don't come to me, just do it. Just do it. Just understand the messages and just do it. Just go make the thing. Just go make it. Obviously, when your channel first went up, I thought it was a joke, obviously. But then, at some point, I watch a video and he makes some like really good videos that are really thought through and make like really good points. And then when I saw that, I'm like, well, yeah, then we're going to boost this guy. When I went away in May, I did a call out to people to make art, to make, especially to make videos. And there's so many. Barry's Economics, you've got to mention Barry's Economics. Barry's Economics, fantastic. I think he's nearly 10,000 subs. Go check him out. Louisa Munch, Critical Theory. These last two, Barry's Economics and Louisa Munch, I want to give them a special mention because I think the two of these made their channels basically in response to the call out I did in May. Like, one thing that is good now is, if you're doing it and I see it and I think it's good, then I'm going to call it out, and that's going to help you grow. And like I tell you right now, the first 100,000 people don't maybe not realize this. I started my YouTube in 2020, and I didn't hit 100,000 followers till 2024. So you've done that like 4 times quicker than me, right? So if you're doing, obviously I can't promise I'm going to share everything and name drop everyone. But if I see it and I think it's good, then I'm going to mention it, and that's going to help you grow.
Meritocracy is a kind of, I think it's a capitalist myth. I think it's a myth of people that, like, there's this thing called survivorship bias that I talk a lot about. It's like the people that succeed, they're the kind of planes that came back in the war. So you kind of think that, oh, that's something they're doing, but you don't get all the information on the people that don't, right? And when you say my channel's been successful, what I get is like, man, it's entirely down to you. But I know that I do value. That isn't. I find it really interesting because when I say that, what people hear is, oh no, back yourself. It's like, I'm not saying my work doesn't have value, and I'm not saying it's not informed, and it's not honest, and it's not authentic, and it's not interesting. I'm not saying that, but because I've been a stand-up for years, and like you saw the show, like I've been bankrupt, I've been homeless, not because I was bad, but just because nobody was coming to support, because you don't have it, and sometimes you just need to survive. So being successful is often not about being good. Like you were good for 4 years, and it was like, things carried on, and so like, I think it's really important to say that support. So like having you in the space and the more people that are on, like I will support anybody else as well. Like anybody that's talking about their own experience, because experience of inequality and how it affects. And anyway, the thing that I want to get out right now is I got this delivered, right?
Okay.
And I haven't opened it yet. And I just thought, oh, you're coming. So this is, right?
Okay.
This
you've got it today.
Yeah, well, I got it.
Well, you want me to open it?
Yeah, I want you to open it.
What an honour. This is why I brought this knife.
Yeah, that's why
I was worried when you brought the
I bought the
knife.
knife. It was like, is he going to shiv me?
Wow,
Yeah.
And you're already on 140 or something, it's speed.
Yeah, I'm on, it's just...
Yeah, it's crazy. So you're sure you want me to open this now? Alright, here we go. We'll open it, shall we? Alright, here we go. Here's the moment. Moment of truth. Bit of unboxing, bit of ASMR for the audience. This is what it looks like. You get a little letter, Barry. Yeah. Keep that. Congratulations on your subscriber milestone. Do you remember your first subscriber?
Look at that.
I'll put this down here for now. That's the gold, that is. People will just play that on repeat. There you go, congratulations. Barry's Economics.
Hey.
On 100,000 subscribers.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Look at that.
It's great work, you should be proud of yourself.
Thank you, man.
Yeah. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
That's all right.
Thank you.
Get rid of this knife now.
I'll put it up here because otherwise it will be on the table. But the thing that I find, try not to, everyone's worried about the plants on there.
Do like this. Yeah, there you go. Is that alright? Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
It's surprisingly flimsy, these things.
Look at that. But when I say that is down to you, what I mean by is like, that is, however good you are, unless you have support from somebody, like, your support pointed kind of fingers at me so that other people could see, oh, this does have value. This does have something. And without that wouldn't be there. And really, it wouldn't. And so, like, there's something about just, this is why I was like, we should do it when we chat. Because to everyone else out there, like, having somebody or other people in the space that understand your story, that know who you are and are there to support is such a huge step towards actually having a kind of a channel that, like, more people, to just put this in kind of stats terms, more people have seen one of my videos than have seen me in my whole comedy career. I started when I was 15. In one video, more people have watched that than in, and that's incredible.
Amazing,
it's mind blowing. And I'm not saying anything different in, like a lot of my comedy shows would be about that. But having somebody else in the space is a whole, like, the people that start talking about immigration online or talk about the more right-wing kind of harnessing the anger for those, there is funding for that. And so having other people in the space, like myself to support, or Louisa or Gary or, Jimmy or Anna.
Something has been happening in the global economy. Everyone seems to be talking about it. We've all been hearing that wealth inequality has been massively rising over the last couple of decades. But there's something that I didn't quite understand. How did wealth inequality get this extreme?
We got private companies that own our trains. They own our energy supply. They even own the very water in our soil. We are the single most privatised country on Earth. Yet somehow, in amongst all of that mess, we are one of the only countries on the planet that has an entirely free universal healthcare system.
We have to live in a society now where everything is in constant movement, constant flux. If you're not producing, you're consuming. If you're not consuming, you're on some kind of journey, fitness journey, wellness journey, hair journey. Culture is at a speed with just hyper inertia. It never gets a chance to settle. Think about fashion, yeah? If you think about the 1970s, you have a clear idea of what an entire decade pretty much looked like. Now we literally have something called fast fashion. There is this sense in society where we can't let the dust settle. But this guy, Frederick Jameson, he gave it a name. He called it post-modernity.
And I've tried hard to introduce you guys to each other and,
And that's another thing I kind of want to say is that you do a lot of work on the back end. Like I see you...
Which people don't see,
But like, like we had a meet up here and came to the comedy, but you also you're always inviting people. We've got a couple of things coming up that we're going to, and being around and beginning to build a community of people that can support each other. Not only is it good for the space, but it's also, the more people that do it, the more chance there is of actually kind of supporting each other. I know that you're plugged in more kind of to the political side, but actually getting more people, because I go to these political events and the people are lovely. They're fine. They're lovely. But so few people come from the background that we come from. And it is a distinction, because it means that your head isn't inside baseball. Like, my head isn't in politics. Everyone that I know from when I grew up, or a lot of people are struggling. And that, giving voice to that, it's just not in those rooms. It's not in a lot of the political rooms. And it's interesting. I'm not saying that people aren't working to try and make things.
Yeah, there's good people. But I mean, like I said, I've been in that space for a long time. And like I say, there's amazing people, massive shout out to the work that Patriotic Millionaires do. Rebecca Gallen's running them, is fantastic. Tax Justice UK, so many great people I've met who have supported. Gabriel Zuckman, of course, fantastic work, but people doing that space. But when for years coming through, I felt unwanted and unwelcome in those spaces. Yeah. So I think we really, really need more people from working class backgrounds, and I want to make people like you feel welcome in the space, and people like Louisa and Jimmy and Anna, and I'm proud of the work that you've done, and all these other influencers we keep mentioning. I think that the speed of Louisa Munch's growth is amazing, because I can go on holiday and I know people can still watch your videos, you know what I mean? And I moved my videos from 9 a.m. to 8:30 to give people a bit more time to get to your videos, because I know they come out also on Sunday morning. But it makes me feel, it's a lot of weight on my shoulders, and I want you to be successful, and I want Louisa to be successful, and Jimmy to be successful. I want Anna to be successful. I want all of these. Yeah, you do it together, and it feels good, and I'm really happy to have sort of you all know each other, and you build a little community, and it's also strategic. Yeah. Like, I think that if we have...
But it can be both, right?
It's
not just strategic.
Yeah, no, I mean, but that's, I think this is kind of the beauty of it. Like, we build a thing, together, you bring people into it. I enjoy it, but that is the power. The power is in the strength in numbers. I think people have been trained to think that we all have to fight this all by ourselves in the box, you know what I mean? But we don't have to do that.
One of the questions came up, is supporting channels enough? Or do you need other people to create? But it's literally getting out into the community, right?
We do need other people to create. I can't speak to, there's, people of different, genders, ethnicities, they're not everyone's going to want to hear from a 39-year-old, white guy millionaire from London, you know what I mean? Tell us what life is, because I don't know that, you know what I mean? And I'm not going to speak, if you're listening from wherever, from Coventry, I don't know what's happening in Coventry, but what it's about, and what the far right does well, is you come in with your space, your experience, and you don't even need to mention my name, you just say, yeah, this is inequality, tax wealth, not work, the problem is inequality, you know what I mean? Yeah. Tax yachts, not dinghies, these, I went and there's a punk artist called Hiatus, you know what I mean? No, not Hiatus, called The Hyphen. Hiatus is a different guy, and he's making these, you repeat the same ideas in your own language to your own audience, Because I can't be a musician, but, so don't look at me and be like, oh, well, because I don't own, you don't have to be an expert in economics, you know what I mean? My whole thing is I try to make the ideas accessible, understandable, just speak your truth in your way. I think that the key things for me is try to echo that same core message, but then talk to your people, you know what I mean? People who are going to relate to you and understand you. But then that's not for everyone. Not everyone, is going to be able to have a successful online thing. And support, obviously, the Patreon is what pays for it. We do need people on the Patreon. But I mean, we said it before, I think it's very individual. What the best way for, we need people to become economists and you become academics and get jobs in media and get jobs in central banking and politics and people to join the political parties. We need people to just go out and talk to their friends and family about it and share the videos. So there's tons of things you can do, and it's just a question of what works. What are the opportunities available for you, given where you are. But even if it's just sharing the ideas amongst your friends and family, One thing I would say is, if you're sitting here watching this and that's all very well, but I can't choose, or should I join Labour, or should I join the Greens, or should I join the food bank, or should I make videos? Don't worry about it.
It doesn't matter.
None of these things are final. You can make 5 videos and stop, you know what I mean? You can join Labour and quit, you know, you can join the Greens and quit, you know. Just pick one, do it. If you don't like it, try something else. But it's really important when you do that thing, don't do it in the expectation or the need of success.
Yeah.
Just
That's
do
out
it.
of your control.
Yeah, because as soon as it starts like that, then you're back in that robot mind. Yeah, try a few things, you know, just do it, you know, commit as much time as you have. Don't go mad at it. Don't because this is a marathon, not a sprint, you know, and you know, it's difficult. Something I often say to you, you know, you need to, you know, life's difficult out there. You got to take care of yourself and your family and whatever, you know, however much time you have to give. Yeah, just, you know, take your time, do your research, figure out what things you can do.
And what's the right rhythm for you. And it's like, and also the other thing is hard is run your own race.
You know, I spoke in the beginning about like the robotification of humans. I fucking love computer games. It's like to the extent that it is actually like a problem. Like I have to be really careful not to start playing because there'll be like no videos for 6 months and you'll be like, what happened? Or Gary's discovered Crusader Kings 2 or something. You know, it's just like we can't like. So I like this is when I see like a game. I'm in the game, and I was talking to Louisa this morning about, you know, like dealing with fame, and I think the book was this story about the dangers of that kind of gamification and robotification. But the truth is, I think in a lot of ways I've done the same thing with fame. You know, I never would have chosen it, but you know, it's a strategy, and you know, I think we will get wealth taxes. I don't know when. The whole thing for me is like a game about how to get wealth taxes. Like the whole thing, you know, and I am a lot more strategic than I think people maybe realize in what I say and what I do. And everything is like, you know, like carefully, like structured, you know what I mean? Like, how can I get wealth taxes? How can I get wealth taxes? How can I get this guy to say the thing that I want? How can I get this guy to do the thing that I want? You know what I mean? How can I get Roy Stewart to say the thing that I want? You know what I mean? Like, how can I get you know, it's these kinds of like trying to get the responses that I want from people. And on the one hand, that's really good because I think we've had a lot of success. But the truth is, it is probably a psychological coping strategy to like the response to like which is like, it's a game. The whole thing's a game. Fame for me is a game. It's not real. And I think there is definitely a big part of me that just does not believe it is real. And like, I went to France to meet Zuckman and French release of the book. Didn't get recognised for like 4 days. And then you come back and I got recognised 6 times on the Eurostar. You know what I mean? And it's still just like, this is like, it's weird. I think I sort of don't believe it. And you know, like the book was #1 book on all of Spotify. Yeah. And only 2 non-fiction books in the top 10 were me at #1 and Stephen Fry at #8. And it was like, I think that can't be like real. You know what I mean? Like, so the truth is, I think I'm not dealing with it. I'm pretending in a way it's not happening. And I'm leaning into this like game of like, let's win politics, which is probably not the most like mentally healthy way to deal with it. But I mean,
so the gamifying thing, firstly, it's interesting that you bring a correlation with what happened on the trading floor. But the difference being that on the trading floor, your work or your gamification didn't have meaning. Yeah. Like the meaning was money, and then you soon realize that money didn't have any more meaning than getting the initial I'm out of the.
Yeah. Well, you know, it did have meaning when I was poor.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
That's the thing. Suddenly, I remember the way it works in trading is you get your bonus. So 2011, I was like top trader.
I remember that in the book. It's
yeah, and then like 2012, you get your bonus. You walk in the next day, you sit down, you're a multimillionaire. And I just sat there, and immediately it was like, why the am I here? Yeah. And up until then, it had meaning because it was getting me and my family out of poverty. But then we were out, and then I just sat down, and I just was like, why the am I here? You know, I was 25. I still had I had a life ahead of me if I wanted it, you know?
And the difference is, if you get wealth taxes, you know why you were there.
We only win this if the average man or woman in the street has a decent understanding that inequality is connected to living standards. Because like people will fight to the death for their living standards. But they have allowed and they have basically accepted tax systems which are designed to create extremely high inequality. That's only because they don't understand the connection.
And that information is out there. So as soon as there is that understanding that, my word, that gap is at the biggest it's been, that's what the problem is, then...
You need to understand that fighting to protect the wealth distribution is fighting to protect your fucking kids' fucking lives and futures, because it is. As soon as we understand that, then we can't... I don't know if you saw Jeff Bezos come out recently. And said, you know, why are nurses paying taxes?
These days, it feels almost impossible to pick up a newspaper without reading a headline about wealth in America, about the billionaire class, about wealth inequality and policy and everything else. And it's taken a uniquely critical turn, I think. And I'm so curious, before we even get into everything else, what you think about that right now.
What's happening here is politicians are using the kind of age-old technique. So there's this tale of two economies, and they're using this age-old technique of, you know, picking a villain and pointing fingers. But the problem is that doesn't solve anything. A nurse in Queens who makes $75,000 a year pays more than $12,000 a year in taxes. Does that really make sense? So people talk about, you know, making the tax system more progressive. How about we start by having the nurse in Queens not pay taxes?
It's fucking clever. It's fucking clever. What he's doing is he's trying to connect his taxes with your taxes. And he's saying, listen, if you let me not pay tax, I'll stop you paying tax. And then we'll go back to the system where I get fucking everything because you pay your fucking tax every time you buy something on fucking Amazon. That money goes to him. You know what I'm saying? Like, we need people to recognize if Jeff Bezos gets what he wants, that is desperate extreme poverty for your kids. But, you know, and people need to understand that link. But otherwise, you know, it's the old classic trick, you know, they're going to try and bribe you with your own money. You know, like, that's it. You know, don't tax me and you'll be fine. But you won't be fine. You won't be fine. You know, Jeff Bezos will own the fucking world and your kids will be poor.
Yeah. So the last question is just on Disco Elysium.
Oh, Disco Elysium.
Is it Kim
Kitsuragi? That's the new one. Yeah.
And just, I mean, you've spoken a bit about it, but what do those kind of, like, I suppose, creative houses or kind of like games?
Yeah, so for people who don't know, Disco Elysium is this beautiful game which is made by a bunch of alcoholic Estonians to cure their alcoholism. They were like, if we don't stop being alcoholics, we're going to die. So, like, we need to do something serious together. And they made this, like, really, like, beautiful, sad, melancholic game about an alcoholic detective in, like, a post-apocalyptic future who's just, like, struggling to do this thing. And it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. And it's quoted in the book, actually. People won't really recognize it. But there's this, I would often go there as a line from a song, and it's in the book, I would often go there. And I was playing it while I was writing the Japan section of the book, which is also very slow and melancholic, and it's about, like, exploring this new place and connection. A lot of that game for me is about connection. There's this beautiful, like, he's like desperately alcoholic. He's on the verge of death, really. What's really beautiful about it is that's the writers were in that situation when they wrote and then there's these lines where he's like, but we have to keep trying. There's one line in there which is basically, like, the most common way you die in Disco Elysium is you commit suicide. And there's this one, you have all the skill points in the game are all the different voices in your head. And you have one voice in your head which is constantly trying to tell you not to commit suicide. And it just, he has this thought, like, you know, I'm nothing, I'm worthless. And the voice says, no, he looks at a map of his hometown and he's like, one voice in his head says, like, what a shithole. And I'm from a bit of a shithole, if I'm honest. And the other voice says, no. It's stupid to get emotional for a computer game. It says, no. This is somewhere to be. This is... what does it say? Street lights and sodium lamps. This is all you have, but it's something. And It's just such a, I think art can be so powerful. And I think there's, I come from a poor background, and I understand why people go to the far right. I know what it's like to feel like you're the shit of the world, you know what I mean? But I think when you can find these pieces of art that say, look, and it's why I love The Plague by Camus, that can say, look, because the situation now is kind of shit. And it's shit for the poor, and it's shit for the ordinary people, and it's great for the rich. And I know what it's like to be that poor person, that shit on person. We need those people to step up from these positions of imperfection and weakness and difficulty, you know, like this fucking stupid alcoholic detective, like these fucking alcoholic artists in fucking Estonia. And say, yeah, maybe I'm a fucking alcoholic or whatever I am, you know what I mean? But we're going to do it anyway.
There's a scene in True Romance. You know the film True Romance?
I've not seen it.
And I can't remember Patricia Arquette? I can't remember who it is. You've got the guy from Sopranos. What's his name?
Tony Montana.
What's the name of the guy from Sopranos? The main guy that died. Tony Soprano. I've forgotten what his name is.
The actor. Okay.
The actor who plays Tony Soprano. And he's beating her. He's like huge guy, and he's just beating her, and she's laughing at him as he beats her. Just like, it gets me when I watch it, because it's and she's bleeding, and she's like, and there's a moment where like she's on the floor, and he's just beaten her, and she picks up this corkscrew, just like this, just nothing, like massive guy, and he just he sits back and just kind of in all his power and just kind of goes, man, you've got spirit, you got spirit, but he's about to just, absolutely destroys her. And then she just brings it down on his foot, like the corkscrew. And but that is what I feel, that position is what I feel like everyone that I know is in. It's just, all you got is a corkscrew. You're all the powers against you. And it's pointless. And yet there's a way to do it. And yet it feels hopeless, because it just, at that point, it looks hopeless. It looks absolutely hopeless.
You ever seen Cool Hand Luke?
A long time ago.
Cool Hand Luke's, again, quoted in my book. And I watched it on a plane when I was at the worst of my sort of depression, and it looked like I was going to be like destroyed by Citibank. I took a plane home from Japan. I watched Cool Hand Luke on the plane. And he's like, Cool Hand Luke, Paul Newman, he's fucked up in the head. He was in Vietnam or something, I don't know. And he gets arrested, he's put on the chain gang. And like the big bully of the chain gang is like bullying him. And he's like challenging him to a fight. And this guy's massive. And like, he keeps hitting Cool Hand Luke. And then Luke just keeps getting up again and again and again until like he can't get hit anymore. And I think that was, at the time, that was an inspiration for me where I was. But I think art has such a big space to play. I think of, like Jarvis Cocker and these kinds of, I just think, and Slaughterhouse-Five, which is Kurt Vonnegut, he talks about, the legends that we tell of the noble poor. And I think like there's this thing which the rich have managed to do to the poor, which is to convince them that their poverty is their own fault. And I think that story, if we accept that story, that will destroy us. Like we need stories, and we need the reason I encourage people to create any form of art, and I don't mean it doesn't need to be like a fucking masterpiece painting, anything, stickers, clothes, stories, books, videos, music, any form of art it's so important in this world which is denigrating poor people, that poor people constantly demonstrate to themselves and to others how beautiful they are and what they can do. So I think art has such an important role to play, and I think if you do that, it can become a movement. It can become like a cultural movement,
and it's an ownership. It's an ownership of your own experience, rather than your own experience being a sign of failure or a sign that you've kind of like you're powerless. Like to actually like they're like actually surviving in these situations to fight another day. I always think of Rocky. You know, Rocky is just get hit in the face, just hit in the face. Like that's his one strategy, just stay standing as you get hit in the face.
Yeah, but I don't want to like glorify too much getting hit in the face, because I think I think we need to be.
I'm not saying that's a strategy.
We need to be smart. We need to be canny. We need to be clever.
But there's also there's an interview that when you're on Diary of a CEO. There's a moment where you're talking. Daniel Priestley is talking to you, and he's saying, and you're saying, no, we've got to say clearly, it's too hard. It's like you can't work two jobs and also be an entrepreneur. And Daniel Priestley's response to that is like, no, you can't. Don't tell people that they can't do a thing. You've got to tell them that they can do a thing. And I always think that that's two sides of the privilege coin. It's like if you've grown up with a safety net and you're okay, you need to be told you can do it, so you get out of. It's all right, Bill. Don't be afraid.
Yeah.
But you need to be told that you can get out and do it. But actually, if you are kind of have been struggling for like 5-10 years, and I'll choke up now because of my brother, but if you've been struggling and just keep going and like just staying afloat is more like you're putting more effort in just staying afloat than most other people are putting in just to start a company. It's like being told that you can achieve everything is like a slap in the face. It's like you're giving everything, absolutely everything. Yeah. But being able to own the fight that you're having, and it's a real fight, and other people are fighting as well, is a story that isn't out there.
But that's I think we need, and this is the reason I really like The Plague by Camus, is I think we need a new story for young people of how to be heroic. That isn't about making a lot of fucking money, and I understand that I'm an ironic person to say that because I've used this part of me, but this is why we need other storytellers. It's why it can't be just me. You know what I mean? I think we need to create this story. That hero is somebody who gets their fucking head down and fights to save their fucking community, their fucking country, and fights together. You know what I mean? And I want to see those storytellers come up that find those ways to make those stories and to make them beautiful. And whenever I see them, I'll promote them as much as I can.
Yeah. Well, thanks for coming on, man.
That's all right. No worries. Congratulations on the channel.
On the channel.